My final project's on furries. So, the fandom as a whole has been around since way before the internet. We really just blew up thanks to it, really. So we even have a term for the older furries, like 40 and above. We call them gray muzzles. You know, that's like the equivalent of us calling someone a boomer. So a majority of the fandom is actually on the younger side. From my personal experience, they're like 16 to 25. Generally even younger than that, probably more like 16 to 20, maybe 22. So fursonas are kind of a big deal for the furry fandom. You're not really a furry until you have one. That's the general consensus. I personally believe that fursonas are kind of like the kind of like someone's soul, essentially. Like if you've watched Doctor Strange, you see that technique where he punches the soul out of someone's body. If that was done to me, this is what you would see. I'm a shape-shifting chimera. It took me about... It took a while for me to think of him. But anyways, I also refer to my chimera as me. So I only said my fursona is a chimera for the sake of any non-furries watching. Otherwise, I would just say me and I. To illustrate my point, I asked all of my interviewees a simple question. This is an entirely rhetorical question because I know the answer. You know the answer.
Yes.
Yeah, the answer is yes. So I'm gonna just let you take the field here. What do you think the question is?
If given the chance, would I become my persona?
Yes, exactly.
100%.
Honestly, I would say yes.
To get out of this world, I'd just become a literal animal. So yeah, I don't care. I'd become my fursona, run off in the middle of the fucking woods. I'd be done with this shit real quick.
So those were my friends. They'll be hopping in and out of the video, you know, as I need them. But as you can see, having a fursona, kind of a big deal in the fandom. And since you kind of got to make your own fursona or hire someone else to draw a persona for you, artists are very, very, very popular in the fandom. Or we're very creatively inspired. So whether it's traditional artists, 3D modeling, digital artists, whatever, there's a lot. Even outside of that, you have all sorts of content creators, like from musicians, dancers, and streamers popping up all around in the community, because we just kind of encourage that kind of creativity. With that, the next topic is...
Only a small percent of my viewers are actually subscribed to my channel.
So the furry fandom is a very creative community. Like with the art of making your fursona, it's kind of like you go with what vibes with you, you know? So if you see a dog and he's like, oh god, I could really see myself in a golden retriever, you eventually make one for yourself. And as a result of that creative inspiration, there's a lot of furries that are into creative hobbies, like content creation, drawing art, etc. So my friend Tiny, he's a Beat Saber streamer, so here's a few words from him as to his own experiences in the fandom.
Hi, I'm Tiny Pob. Originally from Alaska, but I've lived northeast my entire life. Currently in Kentucky for school. Yeah, I wouldn't be here where I am right now if it wasn't for all the furry stuff. I wouldn't have met all the people that I've met if it wasn't for furry.
Me
I would
included.
still be streaming, of course, because Beat Saber was a thing. Beat Saber is how I formed my entire streaming career and all that. But the furry aspect also mixed into that and allowed me to meet a lot more people. My entire Discord server, with a ton of people I've met over the years, would not exist if it wasn't for the furry fandom. It literally changed the course of my life.
So Tiny is an example of the connections that can be made through creative outlets in the community, particularly through the content creation aspect of it all. We actually met through a virtual meetup for content creators. I stream on Twitch as well, though I don't take it nearly as seriously as Tiny does. And we both know a variety of other streamers as well. Outside of that, furries often have a few artists they regularly work with for art. You know, and those artists also trade art amongst each other and just produce a whole bunch of content together in general. With that, there's also an unintended side effect of furries actively seeking out other furry content creators. My friend Mark will explain that for me.
Mark been a furry for... Jesus.
Oh, that long, huh?
17 years?
16?
17.
17.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say more often than not, I'm searching out more furry related content as opposed to like a lot of the bigger streamers you'll see are very much like that. It feels general.
Mm-hmm.
It just, yeah, it just feels general. Like you're there, you're watching someone like if you're not directly interested in like what's going on, I don't feel there's any reason to stick around. And then comparing to like in the furry ones, even if you're not necessarily as interested in the streamer, the community that the streamer has around them, you already know you share something in common with them. Yeah, the furry ones, I found two that, I'll hang around. Then I found at least two more that they're there, I watch them. And then any of the non-furry ones, it's like the content, like they do their thing, they enjoy doing their thing, but I just don't care for it. Yeah.
He ain't one of us.
Sadly, it kind of does turn into that.
Yeah. So that's the content creation aspect of the fandom in a nutshell. Next topic.
Gay!
So there's a lot of furries who identify as LGBT, to the point where we often joke that straight furries don't exist. The fandom is typically very welcoming for people who are exploring their own gender or sexual identities, as most of us have either gone through the self-discovery process or are still actively going through it. I personally probably would not have found out I was bi until much later in my life without the fandom. My friend Hush shares their own experience exploring their identity as a non-binary transgender individual in the furry fandom.
What does my soda mean to me? It's me with some slight differences. So I guess you can say it's like a more idealized version of me. I kind of have them presenting a little bit more feminine as opposed to me, where I assigned male at birth, so I have a lot more masculine features. I always liked a little more feminine stuff, and I'm non-binary, so I wanted to reflect that in my Sona. So they have a more feminine body shape, and they just kind of have different like aspects that I would like to see in that. It's nothing too like pronounced, if that makes sense. It's more the subtle stuff.
Side question. Does your Sona have antlers?
Yes, they do.
Okay. Is that something like you're going to keep on your Fursona?
Oh, absolutely. I honestly, that was one of the reasons why I picked deer as my Sona. I love antlers. Like just the idea. They're cool. I don't know.
Hopping in real quick here to say that I noticed that Hush's deer Sona has a more feminine presenting body, while at the same time having antlers, which is typically associated with male deer. So to me, it looked like their Sona was a playground to explore their own identity, and I asked about it.
Yeah, the fandom has been a big part of like finding my own identity, both like sexuality and gender, and my Sona is one of the ways that that's helped me figure that out, where I can just like you said, it's kind of like a playground where I can just try different things with it and see how I like it and whatnot. Like even if it's not me directly, it's still a representation of me. So many people in the fandom that I talked to were queer and were either gay or bisexual or gender non-conforming in some regard, and talking with those people like really like helped me figure out who I was. Like I wasn't alone in any of that. Like I know like a lot of people growing up are kind of alone in that regard because for various reasons. Being part of the fandom while figuring all that out definitely helped me.
Hush pretty much said everything I could say on the subject, so with that, next topic.
Furry convention in Illinois after what's being called an intentional...
There's only two things most furries want in life, and both are really expensive. First is buying a fursuit, which can cost thousands of dollars nowadays, and the second is attending a furry convention. So furry conventions are like anime conventions, but for furries. And I've never been to an in-person convention myself, so I'll let all my other friends explain this. starting with my friend Spear.
Actually, you know what? You've been to Anthrocon, right?
Yeah, I have. A lot of the businesses close to the convention center, like, will do furry themed stuff. Like, they'll, like, I know there's one place that will actually change the name and, like, put up a banner. I think it's a pizza place. But a lot of those people that are at least close by, they do enjoy it.
Anthrocon last year had 17,000 attendees. Literally takes over the entirety of downtown Pittsburgh, and the entirety of Pittsburgh just goes along with it.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, oh my god, the furries are like, the news covers it. All of the businesses start putting like furry stuff out. Like there is like, I remember there's one business near the actual convention center that puts like an authorized fursonas sign on their door, and it has like a human icon like on a bathroom sign, and has it crossed out, and it has like a fursuit like outline, and it has a check mark next to it. Like they all just go along with it.
I would say other people outside of that kind of smaller area just don't really know a lot about it. Like a lot of people also think it's weird just because they will say like, oh, why are these people dressing up as these animals? That's just weird to me. So I'd say a lot of the closer people are all right with it, and the other people outside of that sphere are just a little more skeptical and weirded out by it.
Like, I've been to MFF 3 or 4 times now, and you go there and you look at yourself, and you're not the person you want to be. Like, who is? But you go to this con, you see all these people being who they want to be. You look at yourself, and then you look at them, and they're pulling off shit that you wish you could, and they're just doing it. And it's kind of like, even being in your own skin, it's kind of an escape, because like all these people are being brought together, and it kind of makes you feel good about yourself, because you kind of have that thought of, I can make these changes, I can be who I want. So yeah, in a way, it definitely an escape.
I've never been to a furry convention because I'm poor. Next topic.
About the pro-Hamas protests at Ivy League schools, but how about a furry protest?
So, the furry community occasionally enters the public eye. A personal example from my life, when I was about 10 years old, was actually 1,000 Ways to Die. So, pretty much there's this episode where a guy gets high on shrooms and starts wandering around in the Nevada desert, and he stumbles across a furry orgy, right? And he tries to get some action, and is told to go somewhere else. He wanders around for a little bit longer before bumping into a bear. You could probably guess what happens. The show is called 1,000 Ways to Die. So I watched this episode when I was younger, again about 10 years old, and back then I did not think much of it, even though it was technically my first ever encounter with the furry fandom. Because, it had to be fake. After all, there's no way people would be dressing up in animal outfits, meeting up in some place to have some wild sex parties, right? So, on a side note, CSI also had an episode called Fur and Loathing covering the fandom, and I haven't watched that myself, but I heard that it is a very similar depiction of the fandom to 1,000 Ways to Die. So, up next is Midwest Fur Fest. It's a furry convention, I forgot where it happens at, but on December 7th, 2014, there was actually a gas attack that happened there. 19 people got hospitalized. Luckily, nobody died, but it did get coverage from mainstream media outlets, and MSNBC in particular had reporters that started cracking up when they found out what a furry convention was, which honestly, I can't really blame them. It's a little bit of a goofy concept. Another more modern example is a bill in Texas authored by Republican Representative Stan Gerdes, referred to as the Forbidding Unlawful Representation of Roleplay in Education, or Furries Act. It pretty much tries to ban students from disruptive roleplay in class, which is, I don't think anyone's going to be against that, except for some reason Gerdes decided to target specifically furries. It's pretty goofy when you think about it, and it gets even crazier when you look into the bill itself, because it's banning non-human behavior such as using a litter box as a toilet, licking yourself or others for the purpose of grooming or maintenance, and among other things. Even crazier, the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, is actually claiming that students were dressing up as cats and using litter boxes in classrooms. A Democratic representative in the state, James Tallarico, rightfully called them out for wasting time on this topic, And another layer of irony to that is that Texas is home to one of the biggest furry conventions in the United States, TFF, Texas Furry Fiesta. So, I don't know who they're firing shots at. You know, I would assume we're giving them quite a bit of money between, you know, renting out a convention center and spending a ton of money to just fly over to Texas of all states. But that's just me. So as you can see, general perception of furries, not exactly the best. There are more instances of furries popping up in the public eye, but those are generally more about the actions of individuals or small groups who happen to be furries, rather than the view of a community as a whole. So with that, next topic.
When you're not really fun, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
So there's a sizable amount of furries who are hesitant when it comes to revealing their ties to the fandom. I personally don't care too much. If someone finds out, they find out. It's a pretty big aspect of my life anyway, so impossible to hide either way. But Mark puts it in a pretty good way for me.
I don't understand coming out.
Yeah.
I don't understand as coming out as gay. I don't understand coming out as any of that. Because it's just a thing of who you are. Like, people are going to think what they think. It's like, okay, you came out. Oh no, they abandoned you or whatever. It's like, all right, cool. You don't have to deal with them now. Because obviously they weren't a decent person. Let them grow up as who they are. And, you know, beat around the bush and maybe come back to it. Heck, if anything, when you put the whole thing about coming out, you're making it a center point.
Yeah, exactly.
And the main purpose for a center point is to be looked at, to be judged. So by coming out and forcing it to be a center point, you're forcing more questions on it that you might, depending on your age, you might not be ready to answer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are bad parts of the furry community. There's bad parts of any community. But you're going to have to defend them or try and beat around the bush, and you might not be ready for that. So
yeah, definitely.
You just act like it's normal, say what you know about it, and move on.
But the fear of judgment is kind of understandable due to the social stigma around being a furry. Because, you know, we have a gas attack, we have being portrayed as a perverted sex cult by popular media, we have Republicans all over us, you know, so there's a fair good amount of reason for you to want to keep quiet about it. This is before factoring in aspects of, like, online reaction to the community, the perceived open-mindedness of friends and family around the individual, and much more. Yeah, and as I was writing this script, there was actually some news in Australia about how a furry got attacked by 3 dudes in a mall.
Broad daylight in Rundle Mall. A violent attack in front of shocked shoppers.
So it's pretty safe to say that outwardly being a furry is of some consequence for some reason. Like, you saw the dudes in the video, like, especially the guy that did a jumping kick. Like, that's a finishing move from a fighting game right there. So, to wrap up, here are some final thoughts from my friends about the furry community.
Furries aren't weird. Even though I said that I cringe at them sometimes. It's a hobby, and a lot of people can just get, like, really, really into the hobby and it becomes most of their life, kind of like me, I suppose. There isn't anything wrong with it, and the people that think there's something wrong with it should just not care about somebody that is doing their own thing and not hurting anybody.
You know,
and if it's not for you, that's totally fine.
Yeah, it's only weird if you make it
find
weird.
something else that you enjoy. Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Honestly, yes, the fandom can be kind of weird and cringe at times, and there is a not so pretty side to it, admittedly. But it's not something it's a good thing. You don't have to like it. Just check it out. Give it a chance. Even if you don't like it or it's not your thing, just it's definitely an experience. A positive experience a lot of times if you want to take a little gander at it, even if it's not your thing. It's still a fun time.
It's fun.
It's fun. Being furry is fun.
It's fun.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay, yeah. I mean, it is
Definitely
fun.
made a lot of friends through this way of being a furry. Not gonna lie. So it has been amazing.
You really don't know what you're going to find in any community. But finding a community that fits with you can open more doors than anything you could put your foot into.
Okay, that's it. Bye.